I got to admit, sometimes I don't love others. I talk about it a lot. But there's some good reasons. I have some good reasons not to love people. This is why I've lost my love for others. How do I say? I want to say this in the best. People are annoying. I don't know if you've ever been around them. If you've ever been around people, they're the worst. Have you ever been in line at a grocery store? Oh my word, people are the worst. I can't stand it when they don't have them much because now it's all self-serve, the self-checkout. But every now and then you go into the line where there's someone who has two things in front of you and you've got a full cart and they don't let you go in front of them. That person's annoying. Or sometimes I've got just a couple of things and I'm going to get through quick and there's some guy with a big full cart behind me getting all naggy about wanting to move in front of me when I just got a couple of things. Come on, back off. People who drive too fast drive me nuts. They're crazy. People who drive too slow, they are horrible. They're the worst. Everyone needs to drive the same speed as me at that moment. People who design the packaging are evil. They drive me nuts. I won't even say what I bought. It was chips. A package of chips, and I opened it up, and it was literally like that much. And I know that's always been true of chips because they pump air into it to keep them so they don't break. I also think the package was already smaller than it used to be. Not that I clocked that, but I was aware. You take half my chips, I'm going to know it. I was thinking about the fact that I don't usually eat cereal anymore, like cold cereal, but I had a craving for Life cereal. You remember Life cereal? It's fantastic when it's there's about an 11-second time when Life cereal is the perfect consistency. Before that, it's jagged and hard and cuts your mouth. After that, it's like gruel, right? But in that few moments, I really wanted some. And so the problem was milk, half and half, and buttermilk all look exactly the same. I did get buttermilk, which did not taste the same. I'm not a big fan of trick-or-treats coming up already. September hits, people start decorating their yard in our neighborhood. And the main reason I don't like it is Ginny, is she cannot deal with people knocking on her door. So on trick-or-treat, I have to sit literally right inside the door, and we give Ginny her medication, and I try and catch people before they ring the doorbell or knock. I try and jump out there, which seems like I'm trying to scare them. I'm not even wearing a costume, and they seem scared. There's all sorts of things that annoy me. There are people, and we've all probably had to learn this, there are people who want a specific way to contact them. Some only text, some only call, some only Facebook message, some only postcard buried in soft peat for 3 weeks and then dug up and mailed. There are people who have all these different things, and I never get it right for people. So if I miss you, if I didn't send you an email or you expected a text and it was email, I'm so sorry. I can't keep track of it all. But we need to be able to love each other. I try to think some other real things. I'll admit one of the reasons I have a hard time loving is I'm hurt. People have hurt me. Or I remember there's a moment that somebody who hurt me a long time ago, whatever's happening now is triggering. Sometimes in this job, people who are hurt and needing help remind me of my own pain, and it makes it hard. Because damaged people who need help, are selfish. When people are drowning, they are going to grab onto anything. What do they say when someone's drowning? Have you ever done lifeguard training? They're like, they are going to try and climb on top of you and may drown you. Needy people are needy. Fearful people are difficult. They're gross. They're difficult to be around. They're selfish. There's anger. There's pain. There's judgment. And sometimes it gets directed at us. And sometimes we're the needy, hurtful people because we're drowning. Makes it hard to love. But we're given an example of how to do that. So let's just quickly go through this. Our example for loving others, of course, is Christ. John 13:34 and 35. As Jesus says, so now I'm giving you a new commandment. I love this. So now I'm giving you a new commandment. Love each other, just as I have loved you. That's how you should love each other. Your love for one another will prove to the world that you are my disciples. What a powerful thought. What a crazy thought. Jesus is saying, hey, here's this brand new idea for religion, and here's your list of rules. Love each other. And they go, what does that mean? And he says, how did I love you? That's what you're supposed to do. That's how people are going to know you're Christian. Not by your dogma, not by your understanding of a book that isn't even out yet, right? Not by making sure you voted the right way or support the right thing. They're going to know that you're a believer. They're going to know that you're a follower because you love, and not just love willy-nilly, you're going to love exactly as I loved. This is done right at Jesus' the Last Supper when Jesus is washing feet. He had just washed feet. Or the example I'm using is the washing feet. They were gross. We've talked about this before. You guys wear good, expensive socks and shoes, and I still would not really want to wash your feet. They were barefoot in the dirt. And then he said, I'm going to send you a helper to be able to do that. It's the Holy Spirit. And this is the new command. The old commands were to show us how we cannot do it. One of the things we learned is that the old commands, the old contract, the Old Testament, the old constitution that they had, or the old covenant that they had, showed that we as humans could never live up to it. If there's one thing we learned from looking at the minor prophets, they never could do it. Even when they were doing great, they were on the verge of toppling. So Jesus said, wait. The whole point of those was to show you that the one thing you need to do is love. Love. The new command is so freeing, at least for me. It is incredibly freeing that I don't have to then worry about every single little thing that I do and make sure that it's following. Look up at the index and make sure that I'm following the correct rule in the right way at the right amount. But I have this one overarching rule to love. And the example is pretty detailed. The old commands are super detailed, right? How to sacrifice, what to sacrifice. We could know in theory, and this is the difficult, in theory we could know exactly what we were supposed to think and do on every part of it. And nobody could do it. The new command strips the onus from our perfection on outward and turns it to an inward desire for God, an inward heart. Takes away the performative part and puts it as an inward struggle. And how do we do it? We love just like Jesus loved. How did he do it? He washed feet, a tangible thing that helped people feel a little bit better. That was symbolic, yeah, but it was also just a tangible thing. He took care of their feet. He healed the gross. We talk about healing the sick. It sounds spiritual. I started to think of this. You know what sick people are? Gross. Have you ever been around someone who has a cold? Ew. Right? He fed people. He saw they were hungry. He had compassion on them. And he fed them. He took the uneducated but willing and made them his best friends. And then he suffered the little children. I'm so excited. Our first grandson is due in, I think, 3 weeks. Calvin called last night and was like they're adorable, making plans for, okay, when the day comes, who gets to come and be in the hospital and and I think he was trying to make us feel better because Hannah's mom is going to be in the room, and we're like, oh, no, that's fine with me, I don't know, be there. But he was like, if you guys, maybe instead could go to our place and take care of the cats and I'm like, you know what, we'll do whatever you want. But it also made me realize I have such fond memories of when our kids were little, and Deb's been going through pictures and making little scrapbooks, and then we started laughing about what it was really like when they were really little. That is what suffer the little children means. Right? Sometimes they're adorable, but they're a pain. I'm excited to be a grandparent, talking to some of you who are grandparents, watching Chuck with Frey, like, that is fantastic. Oh, it's so fun. Go home now. Go home. And we love with the power of God. What does that mean? How do we love like God? Be willing to sacrifice completely. What did Jesus do? He sacrificed his life for people who didn't deserve it. Love without expecting anything in return, even gratitude. People who are drowning, that's one thing I've learned with people in recovery, when they're at that place where they need help, sometimes they're not very grateful just because their world is collapsing around them. Our example should be different. It should be unique. It's more than just being nice or polite or helpful. It's really actually entering into the suffering of someone else, doing whatever we can tangibly and through the heart to help them, and giving Jesus the credit, even if they don't give any credit at all. In a world of hate and selfishness and fear and violence and abuse and racism and genderism and pride, we should really be hard to overlook because we are not those things. It should be hard to overlook Christians because they are loving and caring and kind and giving. So let's make Restore a place that sticks out because of that. We do what we can. We love everybody. And we give them with the power and the love of God. Secondly, the excellence of loving others. 1 Corinthians 12, verse 31. And then we're going to move into chapter 13, all the way to verse 3. So you should earnestly desire the most helpful gifts. We've been talking about the spiritual gifts. You should want the most helpful gifts. But let me show you a way of life that is best of all. So it's gone through this list of gifts. And I don't know if some of you have done that. Sometimes we find out what is the supernaturally charged thing that God has given us where we can love others, and realizing that we can care for others and that we can help the church. We have these things, and it's kind of cool to figure out what our gifting is, what talents God wants to use, and will sometimes use beyond our ability. It's an amazing thing. But God said, this is important. The church should be like this. And then Paul says this, but yeah, go find ones that helps the body the most. But now let me show you one even little bit better way. If I could speak with the languages of earth and of angels, but didn't love others, I would be a noisy gong or a clanging cymbal. If I had the gift of prophecy, and if I understood all of God's secret plans and possessed all knowledge, and if I had such faith that I could literally move mountains, but I didn't love others, I would be nothing. If I gave everything I have to the poor, and even sacrificed my body, I could boast about it. But if I didn't love others, I would have gained nothing. This whole discussion of power and influence and dominion, and we need to fight for the faith, and we need to win the argument, and win our culture, and make sure no. God says, even the good things, even the gifts, even if you could do all this great stuff, what's way more important is that we love. If we don't have love at the core of that, then forget it. It's just like everybody else. Love is better than the empowered gifts of the Spirit. The first, we had persuasion, if we had the best, you could be the most persuasive speaker. Ouch. I got to admit that hits me. Because I spent most of my life going, if I could just say it right, I could convince people, and then they would change. I used to do that every week. Try and figure out exactly how to say something to make you different. No, I start with me. Let me change me first. Right? But if I don't have love, it's not worth it. If I had empowered communication, if I could just speak truth, if I knew everything, if I knew everything God wanted, if I was able to follow all those laws to the letter, even the secret behind them, but I wasn't loving to the people around me, worth nothing. If I had so much faith that I could do amazing, powerful miracles, healings, and move literal mountains, and I trusted God so much that everything I did was a miracle, but I didn't love other people, pointless. Instead of showing the power of God, it would be showing something else. If I was so generous that I gave away everything I had, and people saw me as the most generous person they know, but it was because I was my own pride and I wanted people to think I was the most generous person they knew, I didn't really love people around me, worth nothing. It's all good stuff, but nothing compared to loving others, giving people dignity and compassion versus pity and condescension. I really believe that. I don't know if I always act on it. I get distracted. But I need to remember that loving is far more excellent. I'll be honest, here's where I struggle. I always think if I could just say the right sermon, if I could just have the right conversation, if I could write the right post, if I could do it right, I could really impact the world for God. And then I would feel accomplished. Then I will have done what I was supposed to do. But you know what feels better? And I don't think it's just personality type. When I am able to genuinely show real, actual, God-empowered love for somebody else, I walk away from that encounter ebullient, joyful, powerful. Feels way better than any of those other things. And then I feel guilty about feeling good about it. But the point is, right, that is so much better. So how do we do this? How do we experience that? We need to notice people that need to be loved. Keep your eye open. They're all around you. And you know who they are? All those annoying people, those are the ones that need to be loved, and that's what God is doing. Who's the most annoying person in your life? They're probably hurting. They're probably desperate. They're probably lost. And what will do way more than us correcting them or ignoring them, but embracing them. And they may not right away say, oh, that's just what I was waiting for. In fact, most of the time it'll be, get away. And maybe it's not physically embracing them. As a Norwegian, I got to understand that. Be careful with that. Hugging somebody, sometimes we don't like that. But be kind to them. Offer ourselves. When Deb and I were broken, when I lost my job, when I was first coming out of addiction, I had burned so many bridges, and I will say, this little church, and at the time it was a pretty big church, pretty big, cool church in town. Back then, Cornerstone was kind of the cool place to go. Jim was, I remember going and Jim had videos. He would show clips from movies that made me laugh. And it was a big church. And when I started going through stuff, not a lot of people were nice, but not a lot of people, there were some groups that helped, but one of them was this church, who noticed we needed help, and without putting strings on it, cared for us. So all of our resources, all of our best is worth nothing if we don't genuinely love people. But fixing the problem is not love, right? Any of us who have friends or maybe a spouse or kids, when they tell us a problem and we immediately have an answer and they go, that's not really what I was looking for right now. I struggle with that with my kids lately. Here's where I'm struggling with it, though. Here's the irony. Because I have been through some life. I will share something going on, and my kids start giving me answers. Well, Dad, all you got to do. And I want to be, first of all, slow down there, Sparky. But I'm going to tell a touching story and then move on. I told you last week I had that interview. And I was kind of doing, I don't know if you do that thing where you lay there and you think about everything you said that was dumb, and maybe it's after you leave a party or a conversation. Anyway, I was having that, and I'm like, you know what? Who do I know that I could talk to about this? And Deb was out of town. I called Henry. Because Henry is an actor and a musician and auditions at least 3 times a week. And has faced rejection more than he faces success. And so I was like, how do you do that? And he was so kind, and he was like, first of all, I'm sure you did. He just said all the right things. And then he said, here's what you do. He gave me some tips on how he processes it. Leave it in the room. No, it's not all about you. Your next one might be the next thing. Be willing to still lay it out there and be rejected. Rejection makes you... it was all such sweet, kind advice from my youngest kid. It was powerful. Fixing is not always the answer. You know why it was so sweet? Because I knew he loves me. And he wanted me to be better. That's what the excellence of love is about, is that wanting what is the best for the other person and offering it. Oftentimes when we want to fix somebody, it's so that they're less annoying to me. Love is more important than any superpower. And lastly, the experience of loving others. 1 Corinthians 13, 4-7, we've heard this before. Love is patient and kind. Love is not jealous or boastful or proud or rude. It does not demand its own way. It is not irritable. It keeps no record of things being wronged. It does not rejoice about injustice, but rejoices whenever the truth wins out. Love never gives up. Love never loses faith. It is always hopeful and endures through every circumstance. Let me ask you this. In the discourse that we were talking about at the beginning, in the public discourse about culture and politics and power, How would either side be described as this? This is not just a wedding verse. This is a living verse. We are to love all others, not just the ones we're comfortable with. All genders, all races, all orientations, all politics, all economic status, whether they're good, whether they're bad, whether they're deserving, whether they have a family or not, we are to love them. We are to be patient, willing to wait a long time for them to understand real love, even if they relapse. We're to be kind and tender, show sweetness to people. We're not to be jealous. We don't want to find fault. It's so easy. Why 9 times out of 10 do we point out someone else's faults? Because it makes us feel a little bit superior. We don't envy. We don't want what they got. I'm going to do this, extremely wealthy people talking about envying, denigrating people on welfare. How are they to lay around and get nothing? Do you really want what they got? Love is not boastful or proud, only talking about my great accomplishments and how wonderful and smart and intelligent and charming and attractive I am, and making sure everyone around also says all those things. I have no interest in just getting my own way. I want the good for everyone, not just me and my side. I'm not irritable, easily piqued, easily annoyed, easily provoked so that I have to lash out and get retribution. Does not keep a record of wrong. I like we can keep a record of good. What if someone came up and said, you know what, 1.5 years ago, you said something so sweet to me. Keeps no record of wrong, allows for grace and forgiveness, and loves justice and truth and hates injustice. Christians should, there are times we need to stand up and we need to speak and we might even need to protest and we might even need to even suffer the consequences because of why? For justice. If we're going to speak out, let's speak out against injustice, for people who don't deserve it being hurt. For people who are on the margins being shoved further to the margins. For those who have no one else to love them except us. People who don't give up. People who hope, are willing to hope for things to get better and continue to work for it. Who don't lose faith, who know that God can and will change people and the circumstance. That we are hopeful and confident in the future because even though we're not okay in every situation, we know that God still loves us and loves all. And then I love the phrase endure, the word endure. It endures, it bears up. We stand strong. We continue to do more than we think we can do. So all that's great. How do we do that? Practically how? Well, we start with restoring our love for God. Make sure we're loving God. Then we ask ourselves, have I lost my love for people? Or maybe a better question, I know for me where it's better, have I lost my love for person? Who do I really dislike? Who am I secretly applauding when something bad happens to him? And we repent. And then we ask and we notice people who need help to get beyond policy and program and politics and race and gender and poverty and safety and all that stuff. People that we hope somebody else takes care of, and we realize it is our responsibility to love them. To give of ourselves, our whole selves. To help tangibly if we can. To be humble enough to listen and let them say their opinion, and maybe even sometimes let them be wrong in their opinion, and just love them. Serve them. How do we be humble? We actually serve somebody. Right? Find a way to help them. Be hospitable, even to those on the fringe. Sorry, thank you for indulging me this morning. I had a lot of stuff going on in my head this week. And I know a lot of this is preaching to the choir. And I heard you sing this morning. You guys are a choir. I know you're in it for me. And here's my challenge for this group. Old or young, wherever we're at, This group can be mightily influential by acting contrary to what people expect of us. People expect old Christians to be cranky and hateful and opinionated. And what if we shut up and listened to somebody else and acknowledged how much we love them, affirmed them for where they're at, affirmed that God loves them no matter what, and not only does God love you, but I love you. Let's play counter to what people expect and show them the love of God. We've had people in this church who tell me every time I talk to them how shocked they are that they are so accepted and loved by this little family. I'll end with this. Matthew 6:33. Seek the kingdom of God above all else, and live righteously, and he will give you everything you need. May we be people who choose to follow the example of Jesus through the empowering the Spirit to actively and deeply love others, to the glory of God and the flourishing of our neighbors. Thank you so much, and we will see you next week.